Before we even get into potential tank mates for axolotls, I want to start with the caveat that although axolotls are generally pretty peaceful creatures, they can and will try to eat anything that fits into their mouth. So just keep in mind, although these are suggestions, they may or may not work for you. They might just end up being a snack. What is up, guys? It is the Turtle Girl. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. That's right, today I want to talk about potential axolotl tank mates. And first things first, let's just talk about some general conditions for keeping tank mates with your axolotl. So obviously, anything that's going to be the axolotl's tank mate, number one, needs to be able to live in the same environment as an axolotl. Most notably, axolotls usually like their environment a lot cooler. In fact, you should be keeping them in water that is like below room temperature. And that also means any tank mates you have also need to be able to live in the cooler temperatures with the axolotl. You also need to make sure that you have enough tank capacity and filtration capacity for whatever additional tank mates you're going to be adding, because any new animals you're adding are going to have a bioload. They're going to be creating more waste, and so the tank has to be able to handle that, along with their activity levels, their space to swim, their territory, that sort of thing. All right, all of that being said, let's jump into some axolotl tank mates. The first and most commonly recommended axolotl tank mate is, surprise, another axolotl, or more axolotls. This can work out really well, and I've seen multiple people keep multiple axolotls to a tank with no issues. There are a few things to think about though. First off, obviously, you want to make sure you have enough hiding spaces and territory and a large enough tank size to account for additional axolotls. So if a single adult needs a 20-gallon long minimum, I would suggest at least a 40-gallon breeder if you're keeping multiple or a pair or whatever that may be. This ensures they all kind of have their own space, and it'll also help with the water quality. Also keep in mind that they have been known to actually eat each other's limbs or bite each other's limbs off. Axolotls do have the power of regeneration, so they can grow back limbs if they have been bitten off, but it is still something to think about and hopefully be avoided. Also, just be aware that they usually breed pretty easily. I have never bred my axolotls, or I've actually only had one, so I've never kept multiple, so take all of this with a grain of salt. But it is possible to keep axolotls together. They're not necessarily community creatures, so it's not like you need to feel like your axolotl needs a friend, but it is a possibility. Now, what about fish? You might be thinking, well, I don't want to have another axolotl in my tank, but perhaps I could keep some fish. Now, like I said, these need to be cold water tolerant, and I have a couple of suggestions for you. The first thing is white cloud minnows. White cloud minnows are a pretty small fish. They live in cooler temperature water. They've got this really nice red stripe, sometimes a little bit of a gold or silvery type accent, and usually you can get them pretty inexpensive. This is a schooling fish, so I'd suggest at least 6, but even more than that would be great. The things to look out for when it comes to fish tank mates, and this applies to everything I'm going to mention, is the potential for fish to nibble on the axolotl's gills, because they kind of look like worms. If you see any of that behavior happening, the fish need to get removed right away. My next suggestion would be some kind of guppy or live bearer. A lot of times these fish can be acclimated to be kept in cooler temperatures. I would probably keep them in a separate tank if they were like raised in a tropical tank and just slowly, get the water level lower. Another really good fish tank mate are danios. Danios are a schooling fish. They've kind of got zebra stripes, zebra danios specifically, I should mention, but you could also do like pearl danios, although those can be more expensive. But anyway, this is a schooling fish. They've got some nice blue zebra stripes on them, and they're also pretty fast fish, along with being cold water tolerant. So they might stand a better chance of surviving because of their quickness. Some people might ask, well, if you can have cold water fish, what about goldfish? I would say avoid goldfish because they are pretty big waste producers and need enough space as is. Plus, goldfish can just be a bit more boisterous. They can have personalities that I don't think would mesh well with axolotls. So that would be my opinion. I would not go for goldfish, either comet goldfish or fancy goldfish, with an axolotl, but that would just be my 2 cents. The last category I wanted to mention was invertebrates. So these are things like shrimp, snails, and the main problem here is just being concerned with impaction. So a lot of like medium or larger size snails, like nerite snails, apple snails, mystery snails, they pose a choking hazard to the axolotl, so I wouldn't recommend those. But very small, like pond snails or like juvenile ram's horn snails are okay because their shells are a little bit softer and like axolotls would eat that sort of thing. Just know that they are at a higher risk of being eaten. So like if you throw some pond snails in there, they're probably just gonna get eaten because that's what the axolotl sees them as. However, another invertebrate you could try is ghost shrimp or cherry shrimp. Again, these are likely to get eaten at some point, but they can be pretty inexpensive, and if you want to have something else in your tank, those are another option. Just know that with invertebrates, the likelihood of getting eaten is pretty high. And to be honest, with everything on this list, the likelihood of it getting eaten is pretty up there. So I know that list is pretty short, but you know, axolotls are totally fine as solitary creatures. They don't really need friends, and it's better to err on the side of caution. Again, reminder that everything I've mentioned today have all just been suggestions, and a lot of times these things take trial and error, and if something's not working, change it up, fix it, take the fish out or whatever tank mate out if it's not working out. Don't be afraid to try, but also don't be afraid to admit it's not working out. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, hit the thumbs up down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time. Have a totally awesome day. Bye!